Please, if you love stories like this, filled with soul, compassion, and truth, kindly subscribe to my channel. I create many more videos just like this one. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. A poor father, a stormy night, and a single moment that changed everything. What if I told you that all it took was one moment of letting go to rewrite an entire destiny? What if the thing that's holding you back is not the pain itself, but your need to control the pain? This is the story of Ethan, a man who lost everything in one night: his home, his hope, his pride. And yet, what he found was far more powerful than what he lost. Have you ever wondered why some people smile in the rain while others drown in the same storm? Is it because they're lucky? Or maybe, just maybe, because they learned to whisper two words before the storm even began: let go. This story may break your heart and mend it in the very same breath. So stay with me, just stay, because something in this story might just be exactly what your soul has been waiting for. Are you ready? Let's begin. Ethan was a simple man, a father, a widower, a basket maker in a quiet mountain village. He lived in a small wooden hut with his little daughter, Sophie. She was only 6, but her smile could light up an entire sky. Their life was humble, but it was full of love and laughter, until one night, the rain came. It didn't just drizzle, it poured. The wind howled like a beast. The river rose, and in just a few hours, everything Ethan owned was gone. The roof collapsed. The walls cracked. The baskets, his only source of income, floated away like dead leaves in a flood. Sophie coughed. Her body shivered from the cold. And Ethan couldn't afford even a blanket. He screamed into the night. Why? Why me? Why her? No answer came, only more rain. He held Sophie close, but in his heart, he was already drowning. The next morning, with nothing left, he walked barefoot, holding Sophie in his arms. He headed to the village temple. Not to pray, not to beg, just to sit, to breathe, to not collapse. The temple was quiet, except for the sound of the broom sweeping leaves in the courtyard. A monk, old, silent, peaceful. He looked at Ethan, then at Sophie, then back at Ethan. Without a word, he walked inside and brought out a blanket and a small bowl of porridge. Ethan didn't say thank you. He couldn't. His throat was dry with shame. The monk finally spoke. You lost your house, he said gently, but you still have your home. Ethan frowned. The monk pointed to Sophie, now asleep in his arms. Your home is right there. Days passed. Ethan stayed at the temple, helping sweep, carrying water, learning silence. Each morning, the monk sat with him under the Bodhi tree and said just one thing: let go. Just that. 2 words. No explanation. Ethan didn't understand. Let go of what? His pain? His anger? His guilt? He clung to all of it, because letting go felt like giving up. One evening, as he watched Sophie laugh with the other temple children, something shifted. She was barefoot, wearing a robe too big for her, hair messy, but she was free. And for the first time in weeks, Ethan smiled. That night, he sat with the monk again. "I still don't know how," he whispered. "To let go." The monk handed him a leaf. Wet, torn, stuck to his palm. "Try to hold this without squeezing," the monk said. Ethan tried, but the leaf kept falling. He kept catching it. The monk smiled. "That's life. You can hold it, but if you grip too hard, you crush it." In that moment, something inside Ethan broke, and something else healed. He still had no house, no baskets, no money, but he had Sophie. He had breath. He had peace. And that was enough. He chose to stay at the temple. He learned how to chant, to mend broken mats, to teach younger children. The village remembered him, not as the poor man who lost everything, but the wise man who found everything by letting go. And now I ask you, what are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What would happen if you just let go? Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is returning. Returning to this moment, to the breath, to what is real. We suffer because we want to control what was never ours to begin with. The past, the future, people's opinions, life's outcomes. But everything in this world is impermanent. In the Buddha's own words, as recorded in the Samyutta Nikaya, Sab Sankhara Anicca, all conditioned things are impermanent. And yet, we cling. We hold on to anger, even though it burns our own hands. We hold on to memories, even if they stab us. Again and again, we hold on to pain, because we think, if we let it go, it means what happened didn't matter. But here's the truth. Letting go does not mean forgetting. Letting go means honoring the lesson without reliving the wound. Ethan thought he was a failure because he couldn't protect his home, because he had nothing left to give his child. But the monk helped him realize he still had his breath, he still had his love, and that was the greatest offering of all. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "By oneself is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is evil left undone. By oneself is one purified." Dhammapada verse 165. It means this: your peace is in your hands, not in others, not in the world's. So what do? When the storm comes, we stop trying to stop the storm. Instead, we find shelter within. Just like Ethan, he stopped fighting the rain and started walking in it with open palms. He stopped controlling. He started accepting, and in that acceptance, he found peace. Because here's the secret: the more you try to grip life, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hands, life comes to rest in your palm. Another teaching of the Buddha, from the Itivuttaka: when a person is free from craving, when he has let go of the desire to grasp, he walks untouched by the world. Itivuttaka 1.27. Letting go is an act of courage, of trust, of deep, deep faith. So now, ask yourself, what am I clinging to that is already asking to be released? Letting go is not weakness. It is the doorway to freedom. And perhaps, just perhaps, this is the very message your soul came here to hear today. Coming up next, how can we truly apply this to our lives? And what one step can we take right now To begin the practice? My friend, you've heard Ethan's story. You've heard the teachings. You've seen how suffering begins, and how peace can still return. Now let me ask you, not with judgment, but with gentleness, what are you still holding on to? A broken relationship? A past mistake? A painful memory that you replay again and again in the movie theater of your mind? Why? Why are you still carrying it? Look at your hands. They were made for kindness, for creation, for healing, not for gripping pain so tightly that your fingers forget how to open. So breathe in and breathe out. And whisper, just once, let go. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to understand everything. But you can take a small step. A simple shift in the heart. A silent prayer. A letting go of just one thing. You see, people think awakening comes with fire and thunder. But most of the time, it begins with a whisper. The whisper that says, I can't control this, and that's okay. I will not punish myself for what I could not change. I will forgive myself for trying to survive the best I could. In the end, it's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you really are. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are not your trauma. You are the space that can hold all of it, with compassion. And now I want to ask you something real, something deep. Leave a comment below and answer this. Cyclone, what's one thing you know you should let go of, but haven't yet? Write it, because when you name it, you begin to release it. And maybe, just maybe, someone reading your words will feel less alone. Now let's create a spark of reflection. Fire. If everything is impermanent, and nothing can be controlled, then what's the point of trying? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's question. Let's awaken together. And if this story has moved you, if it reached a part of you that felt seen, heard, and held, please share it. You never know who might be suffering in silence. And your simple act of sharing might be the reason someone finally breathes again. Subscribe, not just to my channel, but to this journey, this path of wisdom, of kindness, of awakening. Every week, I share a story like this, not to teach you, but to remind you of what your soul already knows. That suffering ends where understanding begins, that healing starts when we stop clinging, that peace is never far away, it's here, now, always. So take this story with you. Let it rest on your heart. Let it become a part of you. And whenever the storm returns, you'll remember, you don't have to fight it. You just have to breathe and let go. From my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, be kind, be still, be free. Folded hands.